think people listening to that are like, you did what?
There's 24.7 million fatherless kids in the U.S. alone.
Dads, fathers have stepped out. So when we think of Patros, these are the guys who started the entire race.
What is up, y'all? Welcome to the Patros Podcasts. My name is Allan Pereira. I'm one of the hosts. Jeff Ford by my side is our co-host, and we got some guests today. What's up, guys?
How you doing? It's good to be
What are
here.
we getting into today?
That was a really quick intro.
Facts. So what do you want? All right, now we can't use it. What do you want the intro to be?
Oh, God. Why can't we use it? I think that shows that we're authentic. We're like, that's what you do. That's just an homage to The Office. Proceeding as we are right now. Just keep going. You can cut it out later.
Cut it out.
Yeah. Let's go.
So, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
What's up, guys?
This is
For having us.
episode 1 of the Patros Podcast.
What is episode 1?
Episode 1.
I like
Episode
that.
1.
I like the sound of that. Episode
That was a Star Wars thing.
Juan.
The
Stop. Don't do it.
It's not dubbed in Spanish.
Don't do it.
No, this is the Patros Podcast. We're still looking for a tagline.
You want to? Should we try it?
I mean, I like welcome to the Patros. Wait,
Someone that
takes Greek. Take 2. Welcome to the Patros Podcast, the most interesting podcast in the world.
So Dos Equis, that's the vibe.
That's a Dos Equis vibe.
What's the best
Shane,
come up with?
honestly, Shane could probably come up with one so fast. Shane,
We thought of like 20 the other day, and we didn't like any of them.
okay, Shane, I want you to try one.
It's because you haven't heard Shane's yet.
Welcome to the Patros Podcast.
Because you need to know. That's it.
No, we don't like that one either.
Because you need to know. All right. Well, we're gonna figure that out.
Don't.
But we are gonna talk masculinity.
Where men will be men. And we
No,
put the
stop.
we put the man and cure in manicure.
I use that one.
So, welcome.
Welcome.
The topic on the table is why Patros today, and I want to thank you guys for checking in. Thank you guys for coming out. We're going to be talking about healthy masculinity, and we're going to be talking about what is a Patros. What is Patros? What does it mean? Why do we care about it? And why should you care about it?
Mhm.
What is the space that we're trying to fill in this podcast? And so I'm looking forward to the conversation. So let's jump into it a little bit. But I think I want to start with just the idea of Patros and what that is. So Patros is a Greek word. And you're right. I don't know Greek. It's all Greek to me, but I do know this, that you have various ways of saying the same word in Greek, and it comes across a little different between plural or singular, nominative or genitive or whatever they are. So, but here's what I know. The word actually, Patros, the idea is father.
Mm.
So Patros is a father. All of us at this table are a Patros.
Yep.
In some capacity. It can mean a father can mean a male parent. It can mean parents, but really it is a title of honor is what it is. And when you look at it in the Old Testament, it is used of God. So we talk about Father God, we're talking about Patros God. It's also used for Jesus. You know, it's used to denote Jesus or the Father of our Lord Jesus. But I think in terms of how we're thinking about it, it's really this idea of the founder of an entire race. So when we're talking about Patros, we're talking about like the original, the OG, as it were.
Hey.
We're talking about the forefather, the ancestor, the elder, the senior. So think about this term as, you know, if you can go back and think about when folks were roaming around the earth in tents, and you've got tribes here and tribes there, you have a Patros in that clan. You have a Patros in that tribe. And that is the man, the patriarch. We'll get into that.
Some would say.
Yeah, some would say.
Some wouldn't.
No, some would want to negate that.
Exactly. It's not that they can't say it. They would have to just find a way to hate it.
But it's also used as a spiritual father. So when we think about this, you could be an actual Patros. So biologically, you came from my loins, but you could also be a spiritual Patros. So you are someone that I am looking after. Let's try not to joke about the loins.
Bro, that's such a weird word, but I get it.
Same word as his line.
Yeah.
But it's this word is something that I think we all care about in some regards because we are missing it.
Mm-hmm.
We are missing patroses. We're missing this idea of passing on the wisdom that we had, the collective wisdom that we have of someone who's lived. I mean, I think part of the patros term came from someone who just lived a long time. We don't value the elderly in our culture, really. We don't value. Once someone hits that like retirement age, it's almost like they're disposable to us, right? Like, and quite frankly, we brought it on ourselves because like, oh, I hit 65, I'm deuces, right?
Yeah, I'm not involved anymore.
Right, I'm not involved. I got my 401k, I got my retirement, I'm out.
Definitely,
y'all figure it out.
Right. I think that's definitely a Western concept as well, though.
Yep.
Because in other countries, 62 is like when we were in Uganda, and we asked that question: who here is over 50? And like maybe 3 people raise their hand. Over 60, only 1 guy.
Yeah.
Right. So they're revered and they're seen differently.
Yeah.
Because one is life expectancy, but also just the wisdom of our fathers. Right. And actually recognizing that still. So it's interesting how culturally there's that shift and just trying to understand what are our cultural nuances and what are things that are actually a breakdown in how we perceive that role of father.
Sure. For those who are Bible people, and by the way, we talk about the audience that we want this podcast to reach, the Patros podcast. It is on the one hand, I'd like to say maybe churched individuals. Maybe you think you're saved. Maybe you even don't know what salvation is. Maybe you show up a couple times a year, but you're familiar. Maybe your parents dragged, I think is the proper. Dragged or drugged?
Drugged, it means something different. But
yeah, that's like some Cosby stuff, bro.
We're gonna go with dragged. So, but there may be the other, I think, entity that we're going after are the church curious. Yep. The church curious, like those of you who are looking in on the outside, going, y'all kind of weird, but yet some of y'all seem to have it like something I might want. I don't know, so I'm just kind of at a distance. And a lot of you people are probably like, you're looking at social media from afar. You're not commenting maybe, or maybe you are, but you're looking at people who call themselves Christians and you're going, man, these people are whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
And so part of that is we want to talk to that demographic. We want to talk with you in a conversation around like authentic conversation, genuine conversation about what does it mean to be a man, but then also this idea of patros, like this idea of father. What is our responsibility? And so if you're a church person or a Bible person, you've heard of like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So when we think of patros, that's kind of what I want you thinking about, that these are the guys who started the entire race. Like they are at the top of the food chain. If it was an MLM, they'd be the one making all the money. like they're at the top.
They're not randomly inviting you to Starbucks anymore.
Triple diamond.
I swear you'll get rich. These guys are rich. Like these are the ones who have accumulated all that wisdom, rich in wisdom. A lot of times rich in dollars because there's a certain longevity to them. When you do it God's way, I mean, listen, you will not find health, wealth, and prosperity out of this crew on the Patros podcast. But there is this basic general principle that if you do things God's way, it will bring prosperity.
Yeah.
There's different definitions of that, but at the end of the day, like doing it the right way, doing it God's way, does prosper us as people. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to pass on manly wisdom and this idea of masculinity? Because there in our culture, we've all heard of the toxic masculinity, and there are examples of that, which we'll get into in subsequent podcasts. But what does it mean to be healthily masculine? What does it mean to have healthy masculinity? Which one of those do you guys like? Healthily masculine?
Patros Podcasts.
Have healthy masculinity.
Yeah, have healthy masculinity.
Healthy masculinity at your doorstep or phone scroll. All right. I tried.
You try.
Unfortunately, that's true.
So let's camp there for a second, and I want to hear from you guys about when you think of healthy masculinity, what do you think of? Right? Is there someone that comes to mind? Is there something that you view about that? And why is this important to you personally? Each of us have a story here about why this matters to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has motivated us because y'all are going to say some things that I think are going to be completely foreign to people listening. They're going, they have that view?
Yeah.
Really? That's how they live life? I can't believe, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So, maybe Luke, we'll start with you. Like, and I have said this before. When I think of someone who cares about healthy masculinity, who cares about biblical masculinity, I do. You're at the top of that list. If I got a handful of names, you're in that top bucket. So,
literally wrote the book.
I'll just say
the Authentic Masculinity Program. So, talk to us about that. Why is it important to you?
Oh man. No. Well, one, I appreciate that. Two, I think just as you look around the world, we have an epidemic of fatherlessness. I mean, so you look at it, and over the course of this crazy adventure of life, even with a lot of you guys have been able to be different places around the world, and realizing that the conversation's really the same, right? Like you have this epidemic of kids who are growing up without their dads in the home, right? They're growing up, and even some of them are growing up with their dads in the home, but their dads aren't emotionally present, right? They may physically be there, but they're not emotionally there.
Yeah,
true. And so I think you've got just this breakdown in masculinity and fatherhood in marriage that you see really plaguing every culture and country around the world.
Can you pause there? Because I know you've got some stats on that regarding fatherlessness, because it is an epidemic.
It is.
And I think a lot of people know about it, but I think when you hear the numbers, you go, man, like it's hard to ignore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, we were looking these up earlier, but so right now, I think Jeff, you said there's 24.7 million fatherless kids in the U.S. alone, right? Which is crazy. Right?
Yeah.
But 85% of youths in prison come from fatherless homes. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. Nearly 25 million children, like we said, live without their biological father in the home. 60% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. That's the reality of what fatherlessness has done.
Yeah, because this is impacting our prison system. It's impacting our mental health. It's impacting behavioral health. It's impacting like teen suicide, as you mentioned, and then behavioral disorders that people have. The runaway, like all of that means you have less productivity as adults, right? Because of the trauma.
Less productivity as an adult. You're now spending time trying to find these kids and doing other resources to help them deal with the mental issues and the mental health issues, rather than how am I being creative, am I being innovative? And so we're losing what they could be bringing because we're trying to fill in a gap of what they're missing.
Right? Yeah. So for you then, knowing these stats, you saw this dearth, this gap of healthy masculinity, the impacts of it. So why? I mean, how did you get involved? Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, well, I think as I look back kind of over my life, I think there's some like foundational things that impacted the reason that I saw the value of fatherhood, right? And the value of healthy masculinity. And one of them was a coach that I had growing up. Actually wore the number 20 all the way through college because of this guy. Man's man, knew discipline, like lived that out, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I was about around 14, he ended up committing suicide. And I remember seeing the impact that had on his family. Even now, I'm 33, his son and I played together. His son has since passed away. And you just saw the disaster that just continued to trickle down with the rest of his family. And I remember actually we had passed their house, and my dad and I were in the car, and my dad said, I can't believe he would do that. How many of us would have been here to step in and help them?
Wow.
Like he had no lack of people to ask for help. But yet that's the decision he made. And so I think between that and kind of looking at the impact of the family and then having kids myself, I mean, we're all dads here. Like the reality of having kids, and I remember our oldest. So I was 20 when I had my first, and he was with us for a week, stopped breathing on us a weekend, turned blue, and I remember being medevaced to Denver Children's Hospital, holding this little baby. I'm in my first week of grad school, midterm week of grad school, holding this baby, tubes hooked up and wires and everything else. And I remember that I had said over and over again that he was only mine to shepherd, right? Like he was a gift. I didn't own him. Like he was just a blessing from the Lord. But as I held this little baby, and it was literally teetering on whether or not he was going to be with us.
Yeah.
It got me to a point to say, all right, do I actually believe this or not? Yeah. Like, is this something I say because it sounds pretty, or something that I actually believe? Because now I've got this little human that is entirely dependent on me. So I think for me, like those are the things as I've looked throughout my life that God has used to really drive a passion for authentic, healthy masculinity in me.
Yeah, one of the things as you're talking, I was thinking about, and I know we'll get into Allan's story here in a bit. I know you discipled him, but there is I think a difference in the way that generations look at masculinity. And that's part of this podcast is ideally, we would have 4 generations here at the table. So, right now we kind of got to fake it a little bit because we're, but I'm going to go to the oldest generation. So like ideally, you are the Patros at the table.
Yes.
You're the elder.
Father Shane.
Senior. But ideally,
I know. COVID did this. I used to be jet black before COVID.
I'm definitely crack.
Don't even say it. I know what you want to say.
Actually, I don't know what you want me to.
Okay, great. Good. Ideally, we've got 4 generations. So for those in the audience, just to kind of break it down for you as a reminder, there's a baby boomer generation. They were born in 1946 and they go to 1964. So those are our boomers who got a bad rap here. I think you young.
100%.
You younger guys.
Not to me. I think boomers are.
Yeah.
Good. They're
careful.
Nice.
Okay, man.
It was hard for him to say.
I'm just saying it publicly.
No, because I was trying to figure out, what am I trying to say? No, I love boomers. There's a lot of great boomers. We don't are boomers. We don't get, I know where we're at without the boomers. You feel me? So boom, boom, all day.
Boom, boom. So you got the boomers.
That Shane is representing.
1946 to 1964. Then you've got the Gen X. So Gen X goes 65 to 79.
And
that's you and me, Shane.
Yeah,
right.
You're actually at.
You're closer to boomer than I am, though. So you're going to represent them today.
With passion.
And then you've got 1980 up until 1996 is your millennials.
Was good.
Yep, millennials.
The forgotten ones. The ones that struggled. Because of all the economics of the Gen X and
because of all the Gen Xers and the boomers.
Oh, we all Sandy y'all show.
Huh?
What?
Well, actually,
I think
maybe my
major tangent here. We go the
yeah. Let's go on to all that.
Bring us back in.
That's just
Move on, yeah.
That's another one. And then you've got your Gen Z starting in 1997, and they go to 2011.
Let me present y'all a little bit.
And then there is what's the next one?
Alpha.
The Alpha. The Alpha one is starting in 2012.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So what happens when you start too late in the alphabet? You
gotta go back before you honestly doing that.
Yeah, guys, what are you doing here?
So ideally on the Patros podcast, we've got each of those viewpoints represented because, as mentioned, I do think that there is a little bit of a disrespect to the boomer generation from the younger generation. Sure. And let's say it. I think the older generation can very easily dismiss the younger generation. Oh, back in my day.
Yeah.
And the older I get,
so easy.
it is so easy to do that. I'm like, well, when I was in school, we
had to actually remember.
Did you have AI? Did you have to figure out if you were being called by a random person that you didn't know and that might scam you? Because
I actually know how to write because I had to write.
You write in cursive? Oh, that's cute. Can you write code?
So masculinity. So it's not just like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to be a Patros who passes on that wisdom to the next generation? I think one of the issues that we have is that we have not got that passed on wisdom. We are lacking in that wisdom. And so we have to look at the older generation, and quite frankly, we have to look at ourselves and say, are we doing it? Because when I look around, and it's not just the church, it's also in the church curious. Like when I look around, I see a lot of dudes who are running after money, they're running after status, they're running after, and in the younger generation, it's the same thing. It just looks differently. So instead of looking at that high-paying executive job, now I'm trying to get famous on TikTok or YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Or Instagram or whatever, get the following. And it's like that. Didn't you say, Allan, the number one like thing people want to be is an influencer?
I think so. It's YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You
look it up.
You can literally be anybody, and you don't have to. I mean, they put in the hours eventually. But theoretically, unlike someone who becomes a stellar musician or athlete or something like that, or a doctor or a lawyer, or something that moves on, there's a lot of investment up front.
Yeah.
Where
the buy-in.
Something crazy could have happened, and you get this freak viral video that you then leverage.
And next thing you know,
you can lack true talent in anywhere. but what you do see because of the influence is consistency. These guys are disciplined to get up and consistently do the things that bring in people, whether or not it's smart or whatever. The reality is they are disciplined, and that's how they're getting that success.
The ones who make it.
But
I think there is a quick fix mentality that is
it's doctor, teacher, influencer,
doctor,
and that's by Forbes India, and you know that's real. They're not going to put anything out that's messy. That's Forbes India.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to the real source. The people that are going to keep the stats right.
Okay. So we want to check to make sure that's not just Indian culture?
No, because Indians do mostly what? Doctor, engineer, law.
That's exactly what Jeff is saying.
That's split. All right. Well, we're going to move on.
No. Bring in VJ, bro.
We're going to VJ. Oh my gosh. So Shane, from the I know you're speaking from the Gen X version of things, but you can really, enough boomers, you're closer to that, that you can represent. This idea of masculinity, this idea of health and like manhood, it's been under attack.
Yeah.
In large part. I think some of it does come from the way manhood was expressed in that boomer generation. And even to my generation, our generation as well, and that Gen X, kind of the strong silent type. You don't talk about your emotions. You certainly don't cry.
White knuckle.
Yeah, you white knuckle. Your value is based on your performance. Yep. So, like, for you, why is this important? Why are you involved in this? And obviously, like for all of us, and Luke, you mentioned it. The fatherless crisis is what's driving a lot of this because we see, there's a stat. I think this is important.
Yeah.
In 1999, there was a research done by Pew Research, and the most pressing social issue in 1999 to Americans that were polled, 72% said fatherlessness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you have 7 out of 10 saying the most important social issue that we got going on is we don't want dad in the home. And that, like the basic structure of human society is the family, and we need dad in the home. In 2023, I think it was March of this year, they polled Gen Zers and they said, what is the most pressing social issue of your time? You know what the answer was?
Identity.
Mental health.
You cheated. But he's right.
Just Google helps you out, right?
Man, that was the deal.
No, because they would have said, what is weird?
Bro, time travel. I got that from earlier.
He got AI was listening. Whispering in his ear. It's mental health. So think about that, right? The mental health crisis that we are facing. And I don't care what you're in. If you're a teacher, you're talking about mental health. If you're in medicine, you're talking about mental health. Even if you're in business, it's like, I have a mental health day. Yeah. All that being said, Shane, for you, what was the impetus behind getting engaged in just this idea of healthy masculinity, this idea of Patros, and just that has come from this fatherless crisis?
Do y'all want to hear more of that conversation? Well, you can by joining us for exclusive member-only content by becoming Patros subscribers. Just click the link in our description or join us at the Patros website.
When y'all subscribe, like, you're telling us that you really love this content. And so every dollar that you give helps us to produce more of it.
So thank you guys again for joining us as we together embrace healthy masculinity.